Ambassador Krelix had witnessed many strange things in his 40 cycles serving the Galactic Council. He had seen species communicate through controlled bacterial colonies. He had watched sentient gas clouds negotiate trade agreements. He had even attended a diplomatic dinner where the main course was still alive and singing opera. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared him for humans. The human delegation had arrived at the Council station 3 solar weeks ago, and already the entire diplomatic corps was talking about them. These creatures came from a death world called Earth, a planet so hostile that most species wouldn't last a single rotation on its surface. Gravity that could crush a Valorian's carapace. Weather patterns that shifted with deadly unpredictability. Prey animals with venomous defenses. Predators that hunted in organized packs, and yet somehow, humans had not only survived, but thrived. Krelix adjusted his sensory stalks as he reviewed the reports on his datapad. The humans were classified as apex predators, their eyes positioned on the front of their faces for maximum hunting efficiency. They had sharp teeth designed for tearing flesh. Their bodies produced adrenaline, a combat stimulant that activated during danger. They could track prey for days without rest, their bodies cooling through an unusual water secretion system that allowed them to outlast faster prey through sheer endurance. The Council had prepared extensive security protocols for their arrival. Every species with a prey background was given the option to avoid contact. Armed guards were stationed at every human gathering. Emergency medical teams stood ready in case the predator species showed their true nature. But then, something unexpected happened. The humans brought a delegation member named Dr. Sarah Chen to the Council's xenobiology wing. She was a specialist in alien life forms, they said. She wanted to study the various species more closely. The Council agreed, though many representatives stayed far away from the human section of the station. Krelix found himself assigned as her liaison, much to his own concern. His species, the Vexori, were descended from herd animals. Every instinct in his body told him that being near a predator species was dangerous. His ancestors had survived by running from creatures with forward-facing eyes and sharp teeth. Their first meeting took place in a sterile observation chamber. Dr. E. Chen entered wearing what humans called a smile, showing her teeth. Krelix's skin paled to a nervous green, and he stepped backward involuntarily. "I'm sorry," Dr. Chen said immediately, her expression changing. "I forgot. The teeth thing. Let me try that again." She approached more slowly, her lips covering her teeth, her movements careful and non-threatening. She extended her hand slowly, palm up, in a gesture of peace. Krelix found himself relaxing slightly. Perhaps the reports had been exaggerated. Over the following days, he began to understand something unusual about humans. Despite being predators, they seemed to have an almost supernatural ability to read emotions and body language across species. Dr. Chen could tell when Krelix was nervous before he said a word. She adjusted her behavior constantly, making herself less threatening, moving more slowly, speaking more softly. It was during the 3rd week that the incident occurred. The Council station housed a xenobiology research center that studied specimens from across the galaxy. One of the newer additions was a juvenile Carnorian hunter, a quadruped predator from a high-gravity world. The creature was only 3 months old, but already showed the aggressive instincts of its species. It had razor-sharp claws, powerful jaws, and reflexes that could strike faster than most beings could perceive. The Carnorian cub was being studied behind reinforced barriers, monitored by specialized handlers who wore protective gear that could withstand its attacks. Even at this young age, the creature was dangerous. Adult Carnorians were among the most feared predators in their sector of space. Dr. Chen had requested to observe the cub as part of her research. Krelix accompanied her, along with the headkeeper, a heavily armored Brontex named Thudge. "Remain behind the barriers at all times," Thudge warned, his translator crackling. "The juvenile has already injured 2 handlers this cycle. Its aggression instincts are fully developed." They watched through the transparent aluminum as the cub prowled its enclosure. It was the size of a human child, covered in dark scales with luminescent stripes along its spine. Its eyes glowed an angry red as it paced, clearly agitated by the presence of observers. Dr. Chen studied it with fascination, taking notes on her datapad. Then the breach alarm sounded. The cub had found a weakness in the enclosure seal, a microscopic crack that its claws had exploited. Before the automated systems could respond, the juvenile Carnorian had forced its way through, landing in the observation corridor with them. Thudge immediately activated his defensive shield, a shimmering barrier of energy that protected him. Krelix froze, every prey instinct in his body screaming at him to run, but his legs wouldn't move. The cub locked onto Dr. Chen, the nearest target. It lowered into a hunting stance, the aggressive posture of a predator about to strike. What happened next would be replayed on every council member's screen for months afterward, studied and analyzed by xenopsychologists across the galaxy. Dr. Chen didn't run. She didn't scream. She didn't even activate any defensive measures. Instead, she crouched down, making herself smaller, less threatening. She turned her head slightly to the side, breaking direct eye contact, and she made a soft, rhythmic sound with her mouth, a gentle clicking noise. The cub charged. Its claws extended, its jaws opened, ready to bite. Dr. Chen extended one hand, not in defense, but in a slow, controlled motion. The cub snapped at her sleeve, fabric tearing as its teeth caught the material. Without hesitation, without fear, Dr. Chen reached out and tapped the cub firmly on its nose. Not a slap, not a hit, just a quick, controlled tap. The effect was instantaneous. The juvenile Carnorian's aggressive posture evaporated. Its eyes changed from angry red to a confused amber. It released her sleeve and sat back on its haunches, looking almost bewildered. Then, in a movement that defied everything the council's experts understood about Carnorian behavior, the cub flopped onto its back, exposing its vulnerable belly, its legs in the air. It was a submission posture, a trust posture, a posture that Carnorians supposedly only showed to their own pack leaders after months of bonding. Dr. Chen, slowly and gently, reached down and scratched the cub's exposed belly. The creature's eyes closed, and it made a rumbling sound that resembled contentment. The security footage showed Krelix and Thudge standing frozen in place, their expressions showing complete disbelief. "Good baby," Dr. Chen murmured to the cub. "Yes, you're very fierce. But we don't bite people, do we? No, we don't." When the emergency response team arrived 3 minutes later, they found Dr. Chen sitting on the floor, the juvenile Carnorian curled up in her lap like a domesticated pet, making soft chirping sounds as she continued to scratch behind its auditory ridges. The incident sparked an immediate investigation. How had a human, an alien predator, managed to subdue an aggressive juvenile in seconds using nothing but body language and a tap on the nose? The Carnorian handlers had been working with this cub for months without achieving such compliance. The answer, when it came from human researchers, was both simple and profound. Humans, they explained, had spent thousands of generations doing something unique in the galaxy. They had taken predators, sometimes apex predators from their own world, and turned them into companions. They called it domestication. Dogs, they said, had once been wolves, pack hunters that could take down prey much larger than themselves. Humans had befriended them, bred them, lived alongside them for so long that dogs had evolved to read human facial expressions better than any other species. Cats, small ambush predators with retractable claws and hunting instincts, had moved into human settlements and become beloved companions. Humans kept them in their homes, their most private spaces, and trusted them around their young. The list went on. Horses, ferrets, even predatory birds that could easily remove a human eye with one strike of their beaks. Humans had developed an instinctive understanding of predator body language, dominance hierarchies, and pack behavior because they had been living with predators intimately for their entire evolutionary history. They knew how to establish authority without excessive aggression. They understood the gesture language of submission and dominance. They could read the subtle signs of fear, aggression, playfulness, and curiosity in creatures that most species only knew as threats. Dr. Chen's tap on the nose, it was explained, was a dominance gesture. Quick, controlled, non-harmful, but firm. It communicated clearly that she was higher in the hierarchy, that aggressive behavior would not be tolerated, but that the cub itself was not in danger. The Carnorian cub, operating on instincts that transcended species, understood immediately. The belly-up response was the cub's acknowledgement of her authority and a request for social bonding. Krelix found his fear of Dr. Chen transforming into something different. Awe, perhaps, or respect. In the days following the incident, Dr. Chen was asked to work with several other aggressive specimens in the xenobiology wing. In every case, she managed to establish rapport within hours, using nothing but body language, patience, and an intuitive understanding of predator psychology. The juvenile Carnorian became particularly attached to her. The handlers reported that it became agitated when she wasn't present and calm when she visited. She taught them the techniques she was using, though they found it difficult to replicate her instinctive responses. "We don't think about it," Dr. Chen explained to Krelix during one of their research sessions. "It's just natural to us. We see a creature acting aggressive and we automatically assess whether it's fear-aggressive, territorial-aggressive, or actually dangerous. We adjust our body language. We establish boundaries. We offer reassurance." She smiled, forgetting to hide her teeth, though by now Krelix no longer found it threatening. "For tens of thousands of years, we've been telling other predators, you can live with us, but these are the rules." Some of them listened. The ones that did became our best friends. The Council's perspective on humanity began to shift after the incident became widely known. Yes, humans were predators. Yes, they came from a death world. Yes, they had weapons and combat instincts and forward-facing eyes. But they were also the species that looked at other predators and saw potential friends. They were the species that could walk up to an aggressive juvenile hunter and turn it into a belly-up, tail-wagging companion with nothing but confidence and a tap on the nose. They were the predators who had decided, somewhere in their ancient past, that being apex hunters was less interesting than making friends with other apex hunters. When the human delegation eventually left the council station, they left behind a new understanding. Humans weren't dangerous because they were predators. They were remarkable because they were predators who had spent millennia learning to not be. The juvenile Carnorian was released back to its homeworld eventually, but the handlers reported something unusual. It had become more social, more willing to cooperate, less aggressive toward handlers who used Dr. Chen's techniques. The behavior persisted into adulthood, making it one of the most tractable Carnorians on record. Krelix kept in contact with Dr. Chen through subspace communications. In one message, he asked her why humans had chosen to befriend predators instead of simply avoiding them or hunting them to extinction. Her response was characteristically human. "Because," she wrote, "the best guard dog is a wolf that chose to stay." Ambassador Krelix displayed that message in his office for the rest of his career. Whenever species asked him about humans, about whether they should be feared or trusted, he would point to those words. Humans were predators, yes, but they were predators who had figured out something that no other species in the galaxy had managed. They had turned the simple act of existing alongside other dangerous creatures into an art form. They had weaponized friendship itself. And perhaps most remarkably, they had done it so naturally, so instinctively, that a human scientist could walk up to an alien predator cub, tap it on the nose, and have it roll over asking for belly rubs within seconds. That, Krelix concluded, was not something to fear. That was something to admire and perhaps learn from.